It was Halloween 2008. I was heading to the Paramount Theater in Abilene, Texas. They were showing Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's classic 1960 film. I had never seen it before, but I'd heard it was one of the greatest horror films of all time. The only thing I knew about it was the shower scene, and I figured, oh well, the ending's already spoiled for me, so, I mean, I know she dies at the end, so I'm just gonna watch it and not really care because she's gonna die anyway, so I'll just watch it and see what happens. I mean, the ending's already spoiled for me. So I go and I see Psycho, and I've seen it like 300 times since then. It is one of my favorite horror films of all time. And you're probably wondering why I'm not making this my Halloween movie. I do have a movie picked out for Halloween, but it's not Psycho. I have a different movie with a similar story attached to it for me, but I will save that for Halloween. So, I was wondering how I was trying to think of how I was going to approach this episode, because I knew I was going to do this episode. There are 3 Alfred Hitchcock films I consider to be the Hitchcock trilogy. This is one of them. And I'm wanting to review all 3 of them at some point. This was not going to be the first one. This was going to be, the climax. Like, this is the one. This is my favorite Hitchcock film. I was going to end the trilogy with this. But I kind of took a few weeks off, not intentionally. It's like I kept wanting to post an episode, but I got busy. This every other week episode. I'm lucky Digressor is mostly pre-recorded right now, because otherwise I would be on another hiatus for that show. However, I wasn't taking into account Halloween, so the next Digressor episode has not been recorded yet. I'm not going to reveal the episode. I picked the episode as soon as I realized that my Halloween episode, it was going to be a subject that's not very Halloween focused, and I immediately, like, last minute, almost, not last minute, because it's still a couple weeks away. My next week is the Halloween episode of Digressor, and I knew immediately what I was going to do. I'm not going to reveal that here. I will say that I actually had to look and see which one was closer to Halloween. The Wednesday for Digressor or the Wednesday for Casablanca, even though I know I don't post Casablanca on Wednesdays much anymore. It's usually on Sundays. But I still consider every other Wednesday to be a Casablanca week, even though I don't. So, the Halloween closest to a podcast Wednesday is the Digressor. So, the topic that I chose for that, I was either going to, I'm planning on watching a documentary, and I was either going to watch it and talk about it on Digressor, or watch it and talk about it on here and have it be my first documentary I discuss. But I will discuss it on that show. But I digress. It's the wrong show for this kind of move. I have so much to say about Psycho. I cannot stress how much I love this movie. Like, I am glad there's sequels, and like that, the whole, like, Hollywood and all that loves this movie too, because it's got a lot of sequels. It's got a lot of shows based on it. Bates Motel, like, when they announced it, I was like, and I heard it was a prequel to Psycho, but set in modern times, and I was like, no, they're ruining it. And I watched the first episode. I'm like, okay. And I've seen all 5 seasons of Bates Motel. Wow, that was unnecessary. Anyway, I watched all 5 seasons of Bates Motel, but as it aired, I need to rewatch it because I want to cover that at one point. I also want to cover the sequels at some point individually. I was going to make this Psycho and the sequels, but no, I love all 4 of these movies. I'm going to cover each one in an individual episode. Anyway, on to the movie. Obviously, it was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. This is where I digressed. I was trying to figure out how I was going to approach this episode. And like I said, I wanted to cover this at one point, and that's where I digress. I'm going to try not to do it again, because I've already talked about that. It's one of my favorites, and it's a trilogy. Because I've seen a lot of people talking about this movie, and they discuss the same things. Hitchcock saw the book, he liked it, he bought all the copies, and then he had it so that nobody could enter after the movie starts. There's all the cliches everyone talks about. I don't want to cover the same thing. Do you remember I said in the introduction of this podcast that the Casablanca was actually a blog before it was a podcast 10 years ago, and I did, I think, 41 entries or 40 or something like that. And I did an entry on Psycho, but it was one of my shortest because it's like, well, everything's already been said about Psycho. There's not much I can say. I just wanted to be like, hey, I like this movie. But now I want to actually talk about the things I like. And I've wasted 7 minutes not talking about the things I like. For starters, that intro, Saul Bass, every time he does intro titles, they're always amazing. There hasn't been a bad one. And it's just, and Bernard Herrmann, his score, just... I love it. The sound of an Alfred Hitchcock movie. You just can't. Even you can replicate it. If you replicate it, it's like, oh, they're copying Hitchcock. That's a Hitchcockian style. And, so that is amazing. I will say there was some technical limitations. I know, one of the things everyone talks about is, he chose to go black and white because it was cheaper and it was a stylistic choice. He used his Alfred Hitchcock Presents crew, which is true. There were some technical limitations, though. The opening shot where he's panning across Phoenix, and then it crossfades to a couple different shots, and then it slowly kind of zooms into the window for multiple different shots. His original vision was to pan across Phoenix and pan into the window in one take, but it wasn't feasible in that time. There is a 1998 shot-for-shot remake, which normally I ignore, I pretend doesn't exist. I watched it and I don't like it at all, but I will say there is one thing about it I like. They honored that. The movie opens with that, where it pans across Phoenix and it pans into the room in one take. And before I'd seen it, I saw it a few years ago, and I had, for all this time I had heard, it's horrible, it's awful, it's no, blah, 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 blah. And so when I saw that, I was like, maybe this won't be so bad. Of course, a couple minutes later, I was proven wrong. It was definitely bad. Maybe I'll cover that. Maybe I'll cover that in another episode, because there are things about it I like. But there are things that I want to talk about, but I don't want to take away from this. Like, I also don't want to talk about the sequels because I don't want to take away from this. Anthony Perkins, his acting is amazing. I will say actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's like the first half. Okay, I will say, because this movie it's on Peacock and it's a classic. If you haven't seen it already, you need to see it. Also, this will be a spoiler review. If that wasn't a takeaway from the beginning where I said I thought she was gonna die at the end, so I was like, she doesn't die at the end. She dies like about halfway through the film. And so when I was in the theater and like, the story's still going, and she like gets in the shower, like, why is she in the shower right now? Like, this can't be the shot. I mean, the story hasn't even completed. Oh my god! So like, that was shocking. That was like so shocking in the theater. And I'm just glad that my first time seeing Psycho was on the big screen. Because there's so many movies, especially classic movies, that I love, that the first time I saw was like on TV or bad VHS or DVD or small screen. I saw this one on the big screen, and I am happy about that. Yeah. I could see like the effect that Hitchcock wanted for this film. I got that effect because the Paramount I saw is the. If you know Abilene, Texas, I saw it at the Paramount Theater, and they had the same policy that Hitchcock had. It's like, once this film starts, no one's entering. Like, if you miss the start, you missed it. So, yeah. Janet Leigh she played Marion Crane, and I'm not too familiar with her. I know her from when I see her. I see Marion Crane. I see her in Psycho. So I mean, I know in the time she had like, I don't remember like the types of roles that she was known for, but this was like a shocking role for her. And I remember I saw a thing with her where she said it was just kind of fun, kind of like a fun departure from her usual role. And obviously there's the cliche fun factoid about this film where it was so scary that even she was afraid of taking showers. Like, she didn't take showers for the rest of her life. She just took baths, which I don't blame her, honestly. Or like get one of those sliding glass door showers and just lock it from the inside. Yeah. I don't know if that would even work or if those even exist. I think I would be afraid of locking myself in. Like, it gets wet and then it's like, oh, it's slippery, I can't do it. How do you, I don't know. Anyway. I can't spoke now. Anthony Perkins, I want to get onto him now. His acting. Every time I see this, I'm just in awe of how good his acting is. Like, he was like made for this role because like he does have that it's like the kid next door, like the kid next door feel. Like, he's just a normal ordinary person and you wouldn't expect him to be, like the psycho killer, the talking heads. Yeah. But the way he does the acting, like he does, when you first meet him, like, he's so likable. It's like, it's so charming, and it's just, that's normal conversation. They're just having a normal conversation, but he throws in so much personality into this. Like, while he's talking, I don't remember what the word was, but he struggled to say a word, and he comes off as like highly intelligent because he's using words like not ordinary words. Like, he's like, not inordinately. He says that a lot. But then he was using, I forgot what he was saying, but he said some word and he like stumbled on it, and he like stuttered and tried to pronounce it a couple times and then finally said it. And it's like, is that a blooper? You know it's not a blooper because Alfred Hitchcock was such a perfectionist that if he had fumbled that line, he would have been like, nope, cut, redo. That was meant to be there. I think one of my favorite moments in the movie, and also one of my least favorite moments in the movie, is it showed, like, I have so many notes on this scene whenever Arbogast is interrogated. Like, it shows him going to the different hotels, and he goes to the Bates Motel, and he talks to Norman, and his acting, again, Norman's acting. My complaints are, he didn't have to lie. He screwed himself by lying to the detective. He could have told him the truth up until, the murder part. Because he immediately was like, oh, no one's been here, I haven't seen her. Like, and Arbogast even gave him a chance, like, no, do you want to look at the picture before committing yourself? Oh, no one's been here for a couple weeks. And of course, he tells on himself a minute later, oh, there's this couple that came by last week that said, oh, see, that's what I'm saying. You said, no. He could have just said, oh, yeah, she was here. He could have been completely honest. Yeah, we had a couple sandwiches in the back. We had a nice conversation. And then she said she was tired and she went to sleep. And then cut it there. He didn't have to mention the mother. It's like, oh, yeah, that's my mother. No, they didn't talk. There is kind of a problematic moment there that I cringe every time I hear it, where Arbogast was like, maybe she could have fooled you. And then he's like, I am not a fool. I can't be fooled, not even by a woman. And I'm just like, Norman, stop! I know it was the 60s, or technically 1959 when they filmed it, but that is such a cringe line. And I don't remember if it's in the remake. I have so many problems with that remake. I will get to that on another day. But because he lies, if you lie, it comes out. And this is why I say, his acting is so good, because whenever, they meet on the porch, it feels like a real conversation. It's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm gonna do Linden. Come on. And they have a normal sounding conversation. It's like, oh, see, this used to be the highway. I'm gonna change the Linden. Want to come with me? Change whatever. But then whenever he realizes why he's there, he suddenly gets really nervous and stuttering, and it's like, and he legitimately sounds freaked out and stuttering in a way that I can't even do it. He says next morning, she was gone next morning or whatever he said, and he legitimately sounds freaked out. And I think oh, I want to get onto the cinematography, because the cinematography of this film is amazing, and the angles that they put in this, I'm so used to a lot of movies back then, they set the camera down and the scene plays out in front of the camera, and they might pan it a little bit, but there's scenes and there's shots in this movie where when Marion is packing her bags to leave, and the camera gets in really close onto the envelope of money. And I saw this on Blu-ray. I bought it on Blu-ray a long time, about 10 years ago. And wow, I had on it was at the time I had a 42-inch, which felt like a big screen at the time. Now I have a 55-inch, and I saw a 42-inch. I'm like, this tiny thing? I thought that tiny thing was huge. But anyway, yeah, I saw that scene on Blu-ray. It was just it's a modern scene in the movie. Of course, with Blu-ray, but I've seen a lot of older movies converted to Blu-ray. It's oh, this doesn't really work well. Like, keep this in low res because the flaws come out whenever you put it in higher def. But this movie doesn't do that. This movie gets even better when you put it in on Blu-ray. And like, there's the reason that scene with Norman and Arbogast reminded me of, talk about the cinematography, because there's a shot where I always felt uncomfortable, and then like it took me for the longest time to realize that that's the point of the shot, where like Norman, or he's like very nervous, like Arbogast is looking through the guest book trying to see if Marion had like signed it, and Norman's like kind of looks over, but the way the camera angle, it's like very uncomfortable. It's like a very awkward angle. And it took me the longest time to realize that it's meant to make you uncomfortable because Norman's uncomfortable. Yeah, like, because at that point, you're following Norman you're following Marion for the first half of the movie. And what's great about like the way that they shot this film is, you would think, the main character just got killed off. This guy's cleaning it up. He's the bad guy. He's clearly the bad guy. But we're cheering for him. I noticed in the theater when I was watching it at the Paramount, when the car was sinking, like he had put Marion's body in the car, pushed it into the swamp, and it was sinking, and then it stops, and he gets nervous. Everyone kind of like, it was like an intake of breath. And then it started sinking again, and it was like I could literally hear everyone's sigh of relief. It's like, we're following him now. He's the main character. Like, it's such a smooth switch from her being the main character to him being the main character. And in any other movie, he's the clear bad guy because he cleaned up the murder scene of the other. And it's just it's amazing how that worked out. And yeah, he's the main character, and we're meant to feel uncomfortable because he's uncomfortable in that scene. And they do it with such a unique camera angle. Vera Miles as Lila Crane. When I see her in this movie, I think Karen. I mean, she has legit reasons to be upset, but she sounds like a Karen. And yeah, like yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I like her. I like her character, and yeah, like, she's one of my favorite characters in the film because she's the one that causes the second half of the film. Because I think if she hadn't gone to Sam in Fairville, then I think the story would end. Because Arbogast, he would have, I don't know. He probably still would have gone to the Bates Motel. He probably still would have been killed. But like, Norman hid his body, and then that would have been it, because no one was looking for him. No one knew he was there. There's just, the detective disappeared. Where did he disappear at? But because of Lila, the film continues, and Norman is caught. However, Sam actually might be my least favorite character. I forgot who plays him. Gavin something? Let me see. John Gavin. I think he's still alive. No, he passed away in 2018. Last time I looked him up was in like 2014. I'm like, oh, he's still alive. And then he passed away in 2018. He was 86. I don't think he's a good actor. And this is like, he has such a flat performance. Like, every line he reads, it's like a stereotypical, like, in The Iron Giant, when they're watching this bad sci-fi movie, and there's like this actor who's talking like this on the screen. Yeah, that's what I think of when I see him, because he has such a flat performance. Every line he reads is like this, like a bad 50s actor. Yeah, I've never liked that character. There is a character in here, who is, let me go back. He was only in it for like maybe 2 minutes, but it was very memorable. California Charlie, played by John Anderson. Oh, he died in 92. Very memorable. I would totally love to see like more of that character. Like do like a spin-off of Psycho with just that character. For the longest time, I legitimately thought that was Robert Stack, because of the voice. It sounded like Robert Stack. And I've never seen the customer, high pressure the salesman. Just like like his delivery. He's in it for a small brief, couple of scenes, a small thing. I can't spoke. He's in there for like a couple of minutes, but he left a big impression. I actually felt like that scene. Okay, I know when people say like, oh, it felt longer than it was, that's a bad thing, but I honestly thought that scene was a lot longer than it was. It's literally maybe 2 minutes long, but I'm like, wait, that was it. He left that much of an impression. Let's see, the highway patrol officer, played by Mort Millis, died 92, the year after California Charlie. The shot that I remember most from him was like obviously him in the window. He doesn't even have to say anything, just like his look. It's like the big aviator glasses and just like stone face serious. And it's like, just make that like a poster. And that she's terrified. Well, hold it. Yeah. I'm looking at the cast list, seeing if there's anyone else I missed. Arbogast. Oh, he doesn't even have a first name. Private Investigator Arbogast. Martin Henry Balsam. He died 96. What's his name? Deputy Sheriff Al Chambers. Right? I don't like how he goes Arbogast. Like, that's not his name. It was a good twist though, like that scene whenever they go to his house. It's like, now let me get this straight. Your detective said that he saw Norman Bates' mother. And he went back to talk to Norman Bates' mother. Yes, that's what he said. Well, Norman Bates' mother's been dead and buried in that cemetery for 10 years. It's like, oh, when I saw that in the theater, I was like, wait a second. Yeah. That was, in the moment, it was shocking. Oh, Caroline. Something I like, Hitchcock does, as a lot of other directors do. It's not really unique, but the way Hitchcock does it, I like. He has a cameo in like every one of his movies, but he does it like at the very beginning because people know Hitchcock does cameos, so they're looking for the cameo, and he wants to get it out of the way soon, so they're not like distracted the whole movie. Like, where's Hitchcock? Where's Hitchcock? There's this plot twist happening in front of you. Where's Hitchcock? So all his cameos are like near the beginning, and yeah, it's like right there, like in the first couple of minutes of the film. It's in front of where you see him in front of Marion's work. I don't remember the guy's name. Tom Cassidy? Is that... Wait, let me see. George Laurie. Tom Cassidy is the one guy. It's not buying happiness. It's buying off unhappiness. That's Tom Cassidy. George Laurie. It's in front of Hitchcock cameos in front of his office. Or you see him outside the window and the camera pans to Caroline, played by Pat Hitchcock, Hitchcock's daughter. So they're not in the same shot, but they're in the same take. It would have been nice to have them in the same shot. Let's see, when did she die? She died in... Oh, no! She died in 2021. Like, she just died. Like, a little over a year ago. Wow. Okay, what was her last film appearance? 1978. She wasn't in a lot of movies. She was in a lot of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, though. Let's see. She died of natural causes in her sleep at her home in Thousand Oaks, California, 1 month after her 93rd birthday. Yeah. So that's something I didn't know. You think there would have been bigger news? Alfred Hitchcock's daughter passed away. Nobody talked about it. At least not that I know of. Mrs. Chambers. Oh, I liked her. The deputy sheriff's wife. Or she just wanted peace. Like, they're all like, we need to go out to the hotel and talk to Norman. She's like, come to the house and have some breakfast. Oh, I love that. Dr. Richmond, played by, let's see. A lot of people don't like his scene. They're like, this should have ended at the reveal, and like, they shouldn't have even tacked on that explanation at the end. But I like that explanation, because like, otherwise, it would have been like, oh, he was just a sadistic killer that knew what he was doing, and that's how people would remember the movie is, he did all this on purpose. But having that explanation is like, oh, he thought his mother was doing it, and he was cleaning up after her. He didn't even know he was doing these. So when you get to the sequels, it's like, oh, he's cured now because the mother's gone. At least that's what they think. I will get to that when I get to it. So having that little ending explanation actually kind of helps the movie because, yeah, it changes the way you see the movie. It like adds like reason and like cause and stuff like that to Norman's story. And yeah, like I'll get to more on that when I review the sequels, because if they hadn't added that ending, the sequels either wouldn't have happened or they would have been completely different. Especially the fourth one. But I'll get to that when I get to it. Trying to see if there's anybody else I haven't talked about. I think that's everyone. Apparently there were 3 people uncredited as the voice of Mother, Norma Bates. Like Virginia Gregg, Paul Jasmine, and Jeanette Nolan. They made uncredited appearances as the voice of Mother. The 3 voices were used interchangeably except for the last speech, which was performed by Gregg. Let's see. Any of them, looks like all of them are... Oh, wait, no. Paul Jasmine is still alive. I'm seeing... What else was he in? It doesn't really say. It's like the shortest Wikipedia article. He sits on the faculty of Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. Looks like he's a photographer. American artist based in Los Angeles, California. It doesn't even mention that he was on Psycho. Oh wait, yeah it does. It's one line. The 3 voices were thoroughly mixed except for the last speech of all the Greggs. After his brief career as an actor, the artist pursued painting and illustration. So, Yeah, it looks like he was in like 2 or 3 movies, including Psycho. So, yeah, like, but he's still alive. It doesn't look like. Okay, hang on, let me see. Oh, Vera Miles is still alive. Last I looked, because like I said, back in 2014, I looked and like I knew Vera Miles was still alive then, but she was so old. I was like, she's definitely passed away by now. She's 93. Lila Crane is 93. Let's see, is she still in anything? Let's see. That's the last thing she was in. Movie-wise, 1995, Separate Lives, and television-wise, scrolling while she was in a lot. 1989, A Hijacking of Achille Laura. I can't pronounce that. She's not really in anything anymore. So, what is she doing? It says she's a Mormon, and she lives in Salt Lake City. Don't know why they would include where she lives. Like, Wikipedia just doxed Lila Crane. Nice. Let's see. That's 2 people in here that's still alive. Lila Crane's still alive. Vera Miles is still alive. Al Chambers definitely isn't alive. He was old then. Looking at everyone's. I'm scrolling through. I'm hovering over all the names. Was. Looks like Paul Jasmine and Vera Miles are the only ones still alive that were in the movie. So Janet Leigh passed away in 2004. Obviously, she's the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, who, is very famous in her own right for Halloween and The Fog and like a whole bunch of other movies. Like, she's best known for her role in Christmas with the Cranks. Anthony Perkins, he ended up being typecast, but he embraced it. Later on, he ended up directing some of the sequels, and he kind of embraced that typecasting, and he was, I think, old Norman's better than young Norman, in my opinion, but I know a lot of people just automatically hate the sequels because they're the sequel to Psycho, but I think that's a little unfair. Oh, he was a Democrat. Wait. Perkins was a Democrat. He supported many progressive causes such as civil rights and feminism. Perkins participated in the 1965 Selma March for the right for African Americans to vote, and there are numerous photos and videos documenting his participation, most notably where he stands to the left of Martin Luther King Jr., who is being waved at by Harry Belafonte. Wow. Wait, here's a picture of it. Nice. I did not know that. That's amazing, actually. So, unfortunately, Anthony Perkins passed away in 1992 of HIV. It wasn't very much talked about until more recently, but he was gay, and that got him a lot of apparently I think the Paramount president didn't like him. I read somewhere that he was disliked by some of the heads of the studios because he was gay, which, it's that time, which it wasn't right then, it's not right now, but it was acceptable at the time, even though it shouldn't have been. But he was married, and her story has a very tragic end too. She was on Flight 11 on 9/11. So, Anthony Perkins' wife, Barry Berenson. Yeah, she doesn't say when she was born. but she died in, obviously September 11th, 2001. She was on Flight 11. I think, isn't that the one that hit the ground? Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of 93. Flight 11 is the one that hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. And I think that was the first one. Yes. 17 minutes later, Flight 175 flew. So she was in the first plane that flew into the first tower. And that was Anthony Perkins' wife. Who knew that an episode about Psycho would end up talking about 9/11? Did not see that coming. I mean, I did, because I knew about it. It was something I already knew. Didn't think I would touch on it, though. It just kind of happened. Going back to 2008, after the movie, I had to walk home. Where I lived at the time, it was kind of out in the country. And it wasn't in the country, but it was kind of in the country. And there was a long stretch of road leading up to, my neighborhood. It was wooded. There were no lights. And at the time, I didn't have a phone. This was 2008. I didn't really have a phone until the following year. Yeah, needless to say, I had just seen one of the scariest movies I had ever seen. Walking home alone in pitch blackness with no light. It was not fun. And that's, when I think of Psycho, obviously I have like 15 years of memories of this movie. Like watching all of them, talking about it with friends, all sorts of stuff. Watching Bates Motel, discussing that with friends. But I always end up thinking about the night I saw it for the first time. I also, I didn't mention this at the beginning. Right before I went to go see Psycho, I stopped at the library. I went to the library a lot, but this time, it was actually my first time, because I had just moved to that location, and I decided I'm going to start going to the library. And I just happened to, my first time to go to the library was Halloween 2008. And I met somebody. She was dressed as a cat. She ended up being one of my best friends. And we're still friends to this day. And so every Halloween, I was like, happy whateverth anniversary of our friendship. And I'm like, by the way, that means it's been this many years since I saw Psycho for the first time. And we always kind of joke that it's fitting that I saw Psycho right after meeting her. And so, like, that's just one, like, I have fond memories of this horror film. And I met one of my best friends right before seeing it for the first time. And the first time I saw it was on the big screen. So, like, this movie just it means a lot to me, considering what it is and how, like, my story of it. And so, normally when sometimes when I'm recording these episodes, I know I don't want to pass half an hour. But so, like, I see, like, 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, I gotta find something to say for the next 10 minutes. Like, it's 22 minutes, just end it here. This one, I saw that it was past 30 minutes, and I'm like, no, I still got more I gotta say. This movie it means a lot to me, so I decided, screw it, this one will go for as long as it needs to. But, yeah, at some point I plan on reviewing the other 3 movies in the series, plus the 98 remake. So, to end this episode, I just thought I would remind everyone, we all go a little mad sometimes.